Dreams do come true. So kids, what's your dream?
What is new? So bright, colorful and new. Sometimes it feels hard, but you don't wanna give up.
Hello. Hi.
You can see my dream?
Of course, because I too had a dream. Some days I dreamt of becoming a tennis player and some days a cricketer. To make their dreams real tomorrow, you need financial planning today. Choose from a range of child plans from Aegis Federal Life Insurance and help your child dream big.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Backstage with Boria with Michael Clarke. Australia, the women's team once again proving how good they are. 6th world title, but the men's team struggling at the moment with the indoor test just round the corner, a day away. So I'm going to pick Michael's brain on all of that. First question, Michael, the women's team, how good are they? How good are they?
Yeah, I think let's just talk about the women's team. They're brilliant. Look, what a campaign. What a World Cup. To go through undefeated, so close to losing that semi-final against India. What an awesome game that was. But then to be able to beat South Africa in the final. Look, to be honest, I think the Australian women's cricket team's probably been the number one sporting team in our country for the last 10 years. Their record is phenomenal. I think that's Meg Lanning's 5th ICC trophy victory as well. So she goes past Ricky Ponting and has the most now. She's been a wonderful captain, and that team's been extremely successful. So really proud of the girls. They played brilliant cricket the whole way through, and it goes through undefeated. What a fantastic achievement.
And that semi-final against India, you think that Harmanpreet... Okay, is that... See, I mean, I'm asking you this as a friend. Was that a mistake like Nasir says? Was that unlucky? Alyssa Healy has come in. A lot of people are debating that. Objectively, was it a mistake or was it freakish luck?
Oh, look, I don't think it's fair. I saw the replay. I didn't actually watch it. But when you look at the replay, there's no doubt the bat gets stuck in the ground. So, that's like accidental. You don't, when you slide your bat, sometimes that can happen. But no, of course, if it doesn't get stuck in the ground, I think she's safe. I don't think she's run out. So, oh man, the worst luck. Like the last thing you want as a batter especially when you're playing well, you're scoring runs, India had momentum. If that doesn't happen, it would have been very, very hard for Australia to win that game. So, yeah, but that's the game, So, yeah, I'd say, like I say, I didn't see a replay of did she run hard at the start? Was she, just taking it easy? I didn't see that. I just saw the end result of the bat getting stuck in the ground, and that's extremely bad luck.
Moving on to the men's team, Michael. I mean, it's been a pretty bad campaign so far. Saurav Ganguly is on record to us on RevSportz day before yesterday saying he reckons it's 4-0 India. Do you think there is a way back for Australia in Indore and Ahmedabad?
Look, of course, I'd like to think so. I can understand why Surav's saying that, though. The way we played in the first 2 test matches, I think our preparation wasn't as good as it needed to be. I think we needed to be in India a lot earlier and play at least 1-2 a game, but also bat in and bowl in those conditions a lot more. India's a tough place to play. And again, I think we probably underestimated how good Ashwin and Jadeja are. I think they're 2 of the world's best spinners. You have to pay them that respect. You need to face so much spin bowling in Indian conditions to be able to combat 2 great bowlers like that. I think the most disappointing thing for Australian fans and past players is the way we are getting out. So seeing players batting in India facing spin bowling is very different to facing it in Australia. The bounce is inconsistent. So it's very hard to play across the line, certainly early on in your inning. Now, I think sweeping is a big part of anyone's game, but again, probably not at the start of your innings when the ball's staying low. It's a very hard shot. Then on the other side of that, if you're going to sweep with the spin. Guys are not only trying to sweep against the spin, but they're then trying to reverse sweep against the spin. There wouldn't be a harder shot on that pitch in Delhi than a reverse sweep against the spin. So maybe play that when you're on 150, not when you're on 5. So look, but in saying that, India is a hard place to play. It is a very hard place to win, and we haven't won there for such a long time. So I don't think we should be too hard on the fact that we're not winning. I think we can be critical and hard on our plan against spin and our execution. But no, I'd like to give us some hope. I'd like to hope that we come out with a new plan. There's been 10 days between test matches, so the guys have been able to train, prepare, make some changes. We've got some class players in that team. You know, you look at, if you go through, I know Davey Warner's obviously not in the third test, but Warner, Khawaja, Labuschagne, Smith, and even Travis Head, who was ranked 4th in the world in test batting, those top 5 are, you'd think, as good as any top 5 around the world. But, you know, we haven't been able to execute. I don't think we've stuck to our plans for long enough. I don't believe we've backed our defence. Like, it's okay to say, oh, if you sit there and block for long enough, you're going to get one with your name on it. But in test cricket, you have to sit there for long enough. That's how you make runs.
In fact, that's my question. Your 151 on debut in Bangalore is still seen as the gold standard as to how to play spin in India. So clearly you can score runs against spin, but this team, take Alex Carey for example, it's either the sweep or the reverse sweep. It's something in the head. Do you think the Australians have lost the battle in the mind?
Well, I think it's our plan. Look, don't get me wrong, any plan's better than no plan, but I don't think we've got our plan right because a lot of players are getting out sweeping. So it seems like that's what the batting group has spoken about. That's our plan. And I don't think that's the right plan. I think sweeping is a part of what happens throughout your innings, but not at the start. I think using your defence, strike rotation, playing with the spin is very important in India. I don't think anyone's sitting there saying just block and block and block and block. You've got to find a way to rotate strike. If you get a bad ball, you've got to hit it to the boundary. That's the way cricket goes. That's what batting's about. But I think there's what I've always said and what I learned growing up was, it's like when you swim at the beach, the reason they put flags out, those flags that you swim between, that's the safest area of the beach to swim. So Australian batters need to swim between the flags at the start of their innings. Look at Usman Khawaja. When you get to 30, 40, 50, 60, play your paddle, play your sweep, play your reverse. Absolutely fine. Or if conditions are conducive, look, I think about that test match in Bangalore, my first test, the wicket wasn't spinning as much as what Delhi was, or it wasn't as consistent in bounce as Delhi was. So it might have been easier to sweep on that pitch, but looking at the pitch, particularly in Delhi, we didn't read those conditions well. It's like we were set on playing a certain way. You can't bat like that anywhere around the world. You can have a plan, but you've got to be able to adapt with what's right in front of you. It's like coming to Australia and saying, at the Gabba, oh, we're just going to practice ducking all the bounces. And then you get to the Gabba and it's a flat belter. You're not going to duck the bounces. You're going to stand there and pull it and hook it. You've got to be able to adapt. And I don't think we've done that well enough so far.
One of the key battles, and I had spoken to Greg Chappell also about it at the start of the series, Michael, is Ravichandran Ashwin versus Steve Smith. Clearly, Ashwin seems to be winning that battle. Ashwin was on record on my show saying how he had planned for Steve Smith. Talk to me about the Smith versus Ashwin battle.
Well, look, it's both. It's Jadeja as well, because as soon as, if you're thinking so much about one bowler and you got another great bowler bowling at the other end, you're under pressure both ends. And that's what I think India's done so well. They've used both spinners exceptionally well. They're bowled well together. So even if Ashwin mightn't be getting Steve Smith out every time, I think because of how well he's bowling to Steve Smith is thinking about that battle, and then Jadeja's getting him out. But in those conditions, those two spinners are unbelievable. So I think that's also what we need to make sure we're doing over here in Australia. Pay Jadeja and Ashwin their respect. Australian batters are playing against two brilliant spinners in conditions. They're as good as anyone in the world. So I think we have to respect that and say, give credit where it's due. Yes, we aren't helping ourselves by our shot selection at certain times, but you know, when you're playing against very good bowlers, it's really hard to start your innings. And these two are just, they don't give you a bad ball. They are just on the money every single ball, execution. Then you've got natural variation. Then you've got deterioration in the pitch. It's a hard place to make runs.
And when Australia came here, you alluded to this point at the start of this interview. You said they should have prepared better. They should have come earlier. And then we saw somebody like a Mahesh Pithia because he bowls like Ashwin, or at least the action. I mean, how on earth can a Mahesh Pithia do that job? That was silly.
Yeah.
Let's put it that
Well-
way. I mean, do you think Australia should have planned better in the sense, even in Australia, they should have gotten maybe spinners from Sri Lanka or Bangladesh who are quality to be able to train for India? We want the world's number one team, which is Australia at the moment, to fight against India in India, because that's real test cricket. So far, we haven't seen fight.
This is just my opinion, and I know Andrew McDonald disagrees and some of the players disagree, but my opinion is I think going to somewhere like India takes a lot longer than a week to get used to the conditions, get used to the lifestyle, get used to the culture, get used to the heat, get used to, every part of it. It takes time. So, but we had the BBL back on here in Australia, and I know Cricket Australia were prioritising that, and one of the Australian players that were available to be a part of that as well. So scheduling doesn't help. But I just think maybe instead of us doing our camp in Australia, we could have if we couldn't go to India earlier, we could have went to the UAE, for example. I just think you can't prepare Indian pitches and Indian culture and Indian country in Australia. It's a different country. So I think we probably should have went a bit earlier to train, even if the practice game, India prepared a green pitch and we had only fast bowlers like they did last tour we went there. I still think just batting in the nets for day after day after day just gets your mind and your body accustomed to what you have to do over long periods of time to make runs in India. It's very hard. The other thing I don't think we've done very well, we haven't looked at how India's played us. India has played with a straight bat. India has rotated the strike, hit the ball down the ground. I can't remember who asked Jadeja after the test match about, was he surprised or what did he think about Australia trying to sweep on the pitch in Delhi? And you could see Jadeja laughing, not being disrespectful, just chuckling, saying, not on this pitch. So the Indian team, like every country does, in your own backyard, you know how to play. Australia should be studying, how did India make their runs in the first test? How did India make their runs in the second test? How did Rohit Sharma bat in that first test to make a test 100? A brilliant 100. Have a look at that. You're allowed to learn from your opposition. That's a strength, not a weakness. And I don't think we've actually done that so far in the first two test matches, but I am confident. I think you'll see that the Australian batters change their plan. They won't give up the sweep shot, or I hope they don't. I just hope they're a lot more selective with when to play it in the right conditions and hopefully with the spin versus against the spin.
Did anybody, Andrew McDonald or the think tank, speak to you or any of the past players who've been successful in India?
Yeah, I can't speak for any other player, but no, they certainly haven't spoken to me. And I've made it clear on my radio show back here in Australia that you've got Mark Waugh and Mathew Hayden over in India commentating. Two wonderful players. Mark Waugh was a very good player of spin bowling, used his feet really well, beautiful hands, played very well with the spin. Mathew Hayden's probably the only Australian batsman that has been able to sweep and have success. So why would they not be begging those two guys to come to training, to pay them money if they want money? I don't care. They're in the country. Use their experience, use their guidance, use their knowledge. I don't think that has happened. But if I was in that Australian team right now, I'd be getting those two guys to training every single day just to get their knowledge. Mathew Hayden, who swept his way through 2001 and scored a lot of runs, he's on air commentating saying, boys, you should not be sweeping here. What are you sweeping? So even him, who that was his shot that, made him successful in India, he's saying he wouldn't have swept in those conditions in Delhi. So that's why I just think they've got some great advice over there. They should be using it.
How would you rate Pat Cummins as captain? I mean, has he underbowled? Has he sort of looked in under pressure? How would you, and obviously, thoughts go out to his family and wish
of course.
all the best. But the first two test matches, and how important will it be for Steve Smith in that third test, captaining Australia after such a long time? Yeah,
look, to be honest, now knowing what's been happening with Pat's family, I don't think it's fair to judge the first two test matches. And I was, before I knew that he was coming back to Australia, I spoke a little bit about some of the tactics that he used, and they could have been different. But now knowing what it's like when you have someone in your family ill or a friend of yours, really struggling, it's really hard to concentrate just on the cricket. So I think we've got to be respectful to him as well and say, look, if he wasn't at his best, we can understand why now. His mum's very ill. He's back in Australia. He's obviously not coming back for the third test. And personally, if I was Pat, I don't think he should be going back for the fourth test either. I think he should wait and see the result of the third test. But really, we can only level the series. And even still, I will always say family comes first.
Absolutely.
Your family is the most important. So if Pat feels like at this time he needs to be with his family, then I respect that decision. And the Australian cricket team need to find a way to have success without him. I think you look at the last tour, India come to Australia and Virat went home for the birth of his child. And everyone's like, whoa, no way, India can't win. And you had so many injuries. That's what a good team does. They find a way to perform without your best players or without your captain, and you come together. It makes you a stronger team. And that's what this Australian team needs to do now. Steve Smith needs to lead from the front. Most importantly, he needs to be making runs. Him and Marnus Labuschagne now, they need to be the two leading run scorers in this test match if Australia's going to win.
Steve Smith, for example, slip, leg slip. And is that, the fact that he's not scoring runs, do you think that's sort of playing in his mind and that's resulting in these mistakes?
Well, I think that's another example of why you need to be in India early, because mentally it's draining. It's a tough place. It's, hot. It's humid, or it's a dry heat. It's, you don't sleep that well at night because there's a time difference to Australia. There's so many distractions. India is such a busy place. It's so different to Australia. Any sort of fatigue, physical fatigue, mental fatigue, there's a lapse in your game. There's a lapse in your performance against this Indian team in their own backyard. If you have any lapse, you're in deep trouble. You can't beat them. You need everything to go your way to have any chance of beating India in India. And at the moment, it seems like nothing's going Australia's way. So we're not going to beat them. So we've got to turn that around. And again, catches against this good Indian team, you can't afford to drop them.
Your thoughts on this whole pitch debate?
You know what you're in for. When you go to India, you know what you're in for. And that's smart. I would do exactly the same if I was in India's situation. I wouldn't pick a fast bowler. I'd have 5 spinners if I was the Indian team, because look at the way Australia's playing spin. So, you can never complain. Every country, you go to every country, and you have what is your strength. You go to England, it's going to swing, it's going to seam. You come to Australia, you're going to get extra pace, extra bounce. Why do we love playing at the Gabba? Why do we want that to be our first test match against every opposition? Because we love those conditions. Fast, bouncy, get guys out on the back foot. That's what favours us. So when you go to another country, we can't whinge, we can't complain. That's what playing international cricket is about. That's what makes it different to domestic cricket. You have to travel around the world in all different conditions, all different cultures, all different areas, and find a way to be successful. No good whinging about it. Australia knew what they were in for before they got on that aeroplane. And I wish they got on that aeroplane 5, 7, 10 days earlier to acclimatise.
In captaincy, super, on the money with Ashwin and Jadeja, even using his fast bowlers, Mohammad Siraj, Mohammad Shami. The Indian fast bowlers too have gotten wickets at the start of the innings. Credit to them, credit to Rohit Sharma.
Yep, 100%. Oh, look, I've always thought he's a good captain. There's no doubt about it. And the other thing, to be able to captain with Virat in the team as well. Those two look like they're working well together. Rohit's a very good captain. He's very aggressive. He knows his team strengths. I think his batting has got better since he's taken over the captaincy. I love seeing him opening the batting. I think that's his place. And he's leading from the front with the bat, which makes life easier as well. But tactically, he's there to bowl Australia out twice. He wants to win the test match, so his job is to take 20 wickets. You can see it with his field placements. Why Australia's got 4 guys on the boundary, Rohit Sharma's got 4 guys around the bat. Slip, leg slip, bat pad offside, bat pad leg side. He's saying to the Australian batters, if you want to hit a boundary, go for it, take that risk. Where Australia has got mid on, mid off, deep point, deep square leg. So the Indian batters are taking singles every day of the week. Again, I think this is where we can have a look at what Rohit Sharma is doing tactically and take that into, look at our team. I know we're a different team, but there's a reason he's setting fields like that, because he knows the conditions. He knows his bowlers, but he knows the conditions. You can take, somebody else's success or somebody else getting things right. You can learn from that, whether it's the opposition, another test team, another captain, whatever it is. Take that and use it to your advantage.
The World Cup will be in India, the ODI World Cup, and you've got to play these ODI matches as a kind of preparation. Your thoughts on that you were getting this preparation going into the World Cup. And India in the World Cup will always be a formidable force. So if Australia has to do well, this is where it starts.
I think it's important. I think these next two test matches are huge for Australia. I think we've got to find a way to, I want to say win both, but we certainly have to win a test match in those conditions. Just got to find a way, and we've got to see improvement. And then the one days are just as important. There's no doubt. Look, the next 6 months for Australian cricket is tough cricket. We've got these test matches in India, some one days, test championship, then we've got the Ashes. This is the right time for Australian cricket to start, to be at their best. This is not time to rest players. This is not time to take for granted that we're number one in the world. This is what you want to be, the best team in the world. Here's two unbelievable challenges right in front of you: India and India, England and England. That's tough cricket in any format. And yeah, if I was part of that one day team, especially if you're not performing in Test cricket, of course you want to play. You want to make runs personally. You want to get wickets personally, and you want to be winning games of cricket.
So much talk about KL Rahul. You've been a batter yourself. You're not in form. Should the team keep going with you, or should they give you a bit of a break?
Look, I really like KL Rahul. I think he's a great young man, and I think he's an extremely gifted player. India's winning at the moment. So if I was captain, I would be fighting for him. I would be saying we are winning. I know he's not at his best, but we can afford to keep him in the team right now because we're still winning. I back that he's a good enough player. He's going to train hard enough. He's going to come good for us. He might, in this third test, we might be under pressure. He might walk out and make 100. But if the team's winning, I think you can keep players that aren't performing a little bit longer. So I would be fighting for KL Rahul right now.
How much is in the mind, Michael? I mean, somebody like a KL Rahul got out to that freakish second innings dismissal.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Like, I felt so sorry for him the way he got out as well. Like, that's just sometimes when it rains, it pours. Sometimes you look around the field when you're batting and it feels like there's 20 fielders. Other times you look around and it doesn't matter. Every time you seem to hit it, it goes into a gap. That's what form's about. But I think over a long period of time, your best players find a way through that, And if India feel that KL Rahul is going to be or is one of their best players, then you've got to keep the faith. You've got to stick with him. Yeah, of course it's mental. You just need a little bit of luck. You just need a couple of things to go your way. That ball that you nick and it goes to the keeper, it just goes a little bit wider and goes 4. Or that one that you hit into the bat pad and get caught, it goes past him and you pick up 2. Just some little bits of luck along the way. And then I think KL Rahul is a super player. So I think he will.
Thoughts on Virat, the way we've seen so far?
He's back to his best. There's no doubt about it. Call it the Test series, the one days, then he's got IPL. Test champion, whatever it is, he's back to his best. He's playing good cricket. He looks free in the mind. He still looks fit and healthy, so he can play. But he can play for as long as he wants, as long as his mind is there. And you can see when he's batting. I like to watch batters as the bowler's running in or they show a close-up. You can see that focus in their eye. He's on. He just wants to be in the middle and he wants to make hundreds. And when Virat's like that, doesn't matter who's playing against him, he's very dangerous. That's why I say Australia, if they get half a chance, you can't drop Virat Kohli. You've got to catch it.
In that second test match in Delhi, that first innings 40 odd that he got against spin, I thought was one of the best he's batted against spin in recent times. Would you agree?
Yeah. Look, I've always thought in the right conditions, I like to start spin bowlers against Virat because I feel like, again, he's probably, trained so hard practicing against fast bowlers, letting the ball go. But Virat, a little bit like how I played, he wants bat on ball. So sometimes in England, you see him chase a big drive or push the ball and get caught. That's just because he wants to hit the ball to get into the game. And that's what makes him such a good player. So against spin, you're always making him play. You're bowling at the stumps, he has to play. And at the start of the innings, the more someone plays, the more chance there is. You miss it by that much, and instead of hitting the middle, it hits the outside edge. But I think he has. I think he's playing with this spin well. I think he's using his feet really well at the moment. And with Virat, that's what I'd say. I feel you can see in his game that he's sharp again, mentally fresh, sharp on his feet, determined to score runs. Unfortunately for Australia, that's when he's at his most dangerous. That's when there's big scores around the corner. So fingers crossed, he's allowed to get a couple of ducks as well. Do it in these 2 test matches.
That partnership between Ashwin and Akshar Patel.
Akshar Patel's batting has been unbelievable. Jadeja's batting, unbelievable. Again, though, basic fundamentals, hitting with the spin, playing with intent, using their feet, strike rotation, basic fundamentals of playing spin in India. But those two particularly, their batting's been unreal. Yeah, of course, they're both bowlers bowling well, but their batting has been massive for India.
If our number 7, 8 and 9 can score those many runs, then clearly there is no demon in the pitch that you can't score. You got to find a way to score.
Yeah, look, I say the same. This batting in the second innings in India can be very difficult. So if you get a good ball early or you don't make any runs, understand that. But the person that gets to 30 or 40 or 50, they need to go on and get as many as they can. That turn 40 into 80, turn 80 into 120, because it's very hard to start in the second innings. We've won both tosses. We've batted in the best conditions. India hasn't, yet they've found a way to make those runs. So we have to be better than what we are doing, particularly in our first innings.
Can they win even one? Because clearly in this mindset, it will be a miracle.
Yes, we can. I think this break would have done us the world of good, because now we've had some more, like the guys would have batted in the nets every single day. They've hit more balls. They've had more time in Indian conditions. So I think now we are as well prepared as we should be. We should have been this prepared before a ball was bowled in the series. Now we are very well prepared. Let's see how we go. I think you're going to see our best players stand up and make some runs. I wish David Warner was still there, because I think we need him at the top of the order, that real good intent. He hasn't been making, obviously, as many runs as he would like, but I still want him in the team at the top of the order. But now I look at Khawaja, experience, Travis Head in good form.
Have you been a little puzzled with selection?
I think puzzled is the right word. I think a lot of us back here in Australia are very confused. I can't comprehend how Travis Head was not selected in the first test. I don't know what has happened with Ashton Agar, how he can be on the tour. 2 debutants are coming and played in front of him, and now he's sent home, but he's going to come back to the ODIs. You know, we talk about it every day on my radio show here, where we don't have any answers either. So there's been a number of selections that are extremely confusing, and it hasn't helped us. You know, leaving Travis Head out of the first test match, I don't think that was a very good selection at all.
I leave it at that, Michael. Clearly, the way you finished off says or sums up the Australian story. Fingers crossed we won't fight. All the very best to you and your daughter. Have a good one. Hopefully, Australia will make you proud in the 3rd and 4th tests.
Thank you, buddy. I can't wait to watch it. Have a good day.
You too. Take care. Thank you. Now you can watch all our content on the RevSportz app. Please download the app. All the instructions are given, and consume all sports, multi-sports content on the RevSportz app. Also, you can download and use our other platforms. You can subscribe to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and of course Twitter for the best of sports coverage from all over the world. So the app or all of the other social media platforms for consumption of RevSportz sports coverage. Keep watching.